let's see a few more tips about how to use the numbers in Spanish. Tip number 3, Spanish numbers are masculine. And as such, when we are talking about them, we would say things like the number 1, el número uno, or numbers from 0 to 10, los números del 0 al 10, or from 200 to 500, del 200 al 500. So in the previous lesson, we've learned that from 200 to 900, these words can be used in the feminine. But the difference in here is that we are not talking about a different noun. So if we have a noun that is feminine, like for example, 600 girls, 600 niñas, then the number would need to be used in the feminine. That doesn't make the number feminine, it makes the word feminine because we need to match it with the noun. But we are talking about numbers themselves, the numbers are masculine. Tip number 4, to separate thousands and millions, those large quantities in Spanish, we use a blank space. So you can see there on the slide, 50,320, we use a blank space. We don't use a dot, we don't use a comma. And then with the exception of the 4-digit numbers, so for example, 3,500, we don't need a comma, we don't need a dot, and we don't need a blank space. Now, these are the grammar rules and that dictate how we use the numbers that go from 4 digits and onwards. In practice, you may see, for example, a bank statement using dots in Spanish to separate the thousands and the millions. And the reason for that is that that used to be the old system. So in the old system, we used to separate the thousands and the millions with dots, but the new system dictates that we use a blank space. It is very recent, so you probably still see dots and commas to separate the decimals in bank statements and other paperwork in Spain. And then top tip number 5, we also have words to talk about hundreds or thousands or millions of people, for example. So when we need to use those words in a very imprecise way, so we don't know the millions of people that were there or the hundreds of words that are on a document, and we use those imprecise words. We also have the same words in Spanish. So for example, to say hundreds of words, we would say cientos de palabras. This will be the only time that we use the word ciento in the plural. So hundreds of words, cientos de palabras. Thousands of films, miles de películas. Again, this will be the only time when we use the word thousands, like we use it in English. We also use miles de películas in Spanish, for example, to say that we don't know how many there were, but there were thousands of them. So it's very, very imprecise. Or millions of people. We didn't count the number of people, but there were millions of them. And as such, we would say millones de personas.